welcome in Wrong Side of the Pond. He is DJ Schweitzer. I am Jeremy Lance. We are back after a bit of a layoff.
Yeah, it's been nearly a month.
Yeah. We had kind of planned like international break. You know, we don't generally do a show.
It's normal.
And then my heart decided to be a spaz and knock me out. So not normal. Not something we're looking to schedule again. So yeah, but we're back though. A little bit of a layoff though.
Yeah, we're just happy that we have you as a co-host still. So
I'm here.
Yeah, at a minimum, we're gonna put out this show and we'll see what happens.
Yeah, we got this one.
Yeah, so but excited to be back talking soccer with you again. We've been doing some catch up. Just so much has transpired since we last really chatted about it and had an opportunity to expunge on all the different things that have gone down on this side of the pond as well as over in Europe, and it's never ending. So we had to try to like pick and choose where we go.
Right. What needs to be mentioned from the big gap of time that we weren't around? Like what's still worth talking about? And obviously, one of them being the fact that the U.S. did qualify.
They did.
So during that international break, qualification wrapped up. The U.S. made it. Obviously, a lot to talk about there as we now look ahead. We have the draw. The draw was fun for me. So my heart had to be shocked back into rhythm.
Oh, that sounds fun.
So I had to be put out for that.
Okay.
And that was on Friday. That was Friday at around 11. So I came to just as the thing was starting.
That's actually the best way to do it, because anyone else who turned in like when they thought they should have wasted an hour of their life, and you were like, I don't need to be alive for this.
Right. No, it was funny because I was like kind of falling asleep and like in and out and like conscious, not conscious. And so I would like see a draw and be like, oh, that team's going there. Oh, okay. And then I'd be like, out.
Clunk.
And then I would be like, oh, England's in that one. Oh, that's interesting. Okay. Out. And then, oh, hey, it's the U.S. Where are we going? Oh, snap. We're going there. And then I'm out again.
So you
barely about the, yeah. Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
It was like, I was just catching parts of it. According to everybody, my wife and the doctors in the room, I was really excited when I was like, oh my gosh, hey, here's this could be our group. Oh, and then I'd be like, and then like 2 seconds later, I'm like, just gone.
Pass out.
So, so I was apparently a mess through all of it, but I remember picking up the pieces of just, oh, okay, that group. Oh, that's where we are. Oh, Iran. Okay. And then the gang of three.
Yeah. So, we'll break down some of our further thoughts about that process, including qualification, towards the end of this week's show. But we got to start where we normally do this week with Premier League action. We had the mother of all matches this past weekend, as far as the Premier League season is concerned. And it really has become almost like the linchpin in how the season plays out. And
right. I think at some point we said that, like, recently, like, man, this match is coming and it could decide the season, and that was not the case.
Yeah, well, I mean, it
didn't decide it could have pushed things though, and really into one direction or the other. Had City won, it pretty much create almost too much space, right?
Yeah, I mean, for sure. But I mean, the way that Pep Guardiola, I mean, I don't know if you saw his celebration in the aftermath of the match itself. He came up and like gave Klopp like the most aggressive like post-match congratulatory high five that I've ever seen anyone give after a draw. He was hyped, like genuinely hyped, and
they were both pretty hyped.
Yeah, but I think Guardiola in particular was just so over the top, because with that point that they still maintain as the gap over top of Liverpool at the moment, that means their destiny is in their own hands. If they find a way to win out for the rest of the campaign, which should be a realistic thing for them to be.
I mean, they don't have really that many like matches against anybody who's anybody.
Right.
Like they're left with, I mean, really nobody as far as like a title chaser or a Champions League contender.
I mean, that's a pretty buttery way to finish the season.
They go Brighton, Watford, Leeds, Newcastle, West Ham, and Villa to run it out.
That's not too shabby.
That's it. That's all that's on their plate outside of cup stuff. So they actually play Liverpool again this weekend.
If you could pick your final run-in as Pep Guardiola, that's probably it.
Yeah.
Liverpool have a relatively equal run-in as well. They do have to face Spurs. That's probably the most daunting of their remaining matches.
Yeah.
But otherwise,
they have to play United, but that has lost its steam.
It really has.
It could still be a good one. I mean, it's United. Maybe they wake up for that one. They show up.
But I think if you're Klopp, or excuse me, if you're Guardiola and you're leaving that prior match, you're going to yourself, hey, a draw is almost as good as a win. Like, obviously, we prefer a win. It gives us a little bit more cushion.
Right.
But we're in control of our destiny now. All we have to do is take care of ourselves, and we're going to carry ourselves into another title here. Right.
A loss would have flipped that script. It would have puts Liverpool essentially in the driver's seat.
Yeah.
Which would have been wild. Because it wasn't too long ago that like this race didn't even exist, right?
I mean, how many times this like season did we have the conversation of, well, City's already wrapped this thing up, like a decade ago, and it's not like they've been poor. You know what I mean? Like, they dropped some points here or there. You know, they had a couple losses to Spurs. But otherwise,
they drew with like Palace or something, didn't they, recently?
Yeah. But I mean, otherwise, they've done pretty well. They've really not dropped too many points. But Liverpool have really found their feet in the back half of the season and have just run. And they find themselves knocking on the door. I think, if anything else, we're going to have a really fun end of the campaign to see which of these two teams has enough endurance left in them.
I believe they both have Champions League tomorrow.
They do, yes.
So they'll both get to find out if they progress and continue, and then it does. You know, this weekend one of them will advance over the other to the FA Cup final. So you start getting like all these other things getting added onto the plate, like especially with the Champions League. At what point is it almost beneficial if for the team trying to lock up the title to not have the Champions League matches there?
Well, I mean, it depends on what your, preferences are right now. Like, I would imagine Liverpool probably would prioritize the league right now over the Champions League.
Sure.
Right?
Which for City, it's the opposite, right?
Yeah, but Liverpool right now are also the most likely to go through to the next round. They're going to go 3-1 lead against Benfica and heading into the second leg. Whereas City carry a 1-0 lead over top of Atletico and playing away. So both of these teams have ambitions to be like all-conquering, powerful, teams that we talk about in 20 years. Whereas, whether or not one would be, benefit from dropping out of a competition or two, sure. But I don't think either of them see that as a palatable option at all.
Are they both going to win the thing they weren't wanting? Or they weren't chasing this year? Like City, I mean, City has become what a lot of Guardiola teams and other, the big clubs have become, where it's like, okay, yeah, the league, but it's all about Champions League. And for a City side that has not cashed that one in yet, it is interesting that they might find themselves in a situation where they are much more likely to win the league and not the Champions League.
Yeah, I mean, I you were saying that earlier, like City would prioritize the Champions League. They 100% would, and I think they would gladly, Guardiola would never say this out loud, but I think he would sacrifice the league if that meant he could ensure Champions League, right? Like,
Right.
I think that's where they're at. That it's the only title they've not won yet that they really need to cement themselves as like this club that's risen into the European elite, right? Like they're there every season, you know, they're knocking on the door, they're winning domestic titles, you know, the whole 9 yards. But they still don't have that last big jewel in their crown to really cement themselves as like one of the preeminent European sides.
I saw two interesting talking points on the whole City Liverpool thing that I wanted to hit real quick before we jump over to other stuff. One, I heard the argument thrown out, and you talked about like the big high five handshake after the match, and how both of these two managers have known each other for a while. They've battled each other back into the Bundesliga days.
Right.
Does this rivalry suffer from the fact that they respect each other too much?
Oh, or like are you wanting like a classic Rafa Benitez and, you know, Mourinho spat, or maybe an Arsene Wenger and, you know, Sir Alex, like kind of talking smack at each other through the press?
Yeah, I mean, this is not a rivalry that seems to have a whole lot of teeth to it as far as two sides that just absolutely despise each other.
Yeah, I mean, there's no traditional, you know.
Sure. So you don't even have that either.
Yeah, right. But I think too, like I don't necessarily need it to be that way. Would I want it? Of course. Like,
yes.
Two managers like being petty with each other through the press. Like,
we'll take
please.
It. Sign me up.
Every weekend I want that. But
I want a tie flip.
I don't think it lessens. Tie flip. Yeah, that's what we really need. I don't think it lessens the rivalry though.
The other talking point I find the weird one, the somewhat frustrating one. There is a notion within the EPL audience, or a section of them at least, that we all need to be rooting for Liverpool in this situation because of the fear of City turning this into like a one club league.
Oh, man. Are we really that fearful of that?
I don't think it's like not off the table. Like it's definitely on the table. I mean, the City have positioned themselves to where they could really create some, and they have over the past several seasons been able to really create some distance between themselves and 99% of the league.
Yeah, sure. I mean, this is no different, in my opinion, than the same conversations we were having about Manchester United a decade plus ago, right? Like, what are we going to do to bust up the monopoly that they have on the Premier League? And I don't know. I mean, it's a question that's worthy of asking, but we've seen, Chelsea have won quite a few titles in this stretch here, right? Leicester pipped one off. United have gotten some in this City era. Arsenal have won some FA Cups. The Liverpool and Chelsea have won Champions League sides.
Yeah.
We've seen English teams be successful, and my concerns about there being like a monopoly that City are running away with are really not like anything worth worrying about, particularly when you see like someone like Newcastle who's coming over the horizon and potentially going to be a player here in the not too distant future too.
No, that's a really good point. I mean, as much as it's not exactly exciting how Newcastle's become who they are, it is just another big money club in the making, much like City was.
Yeah.
So yeah, maybe you do have that. I don't know. Now again, I don't know if that makes it too enticing. If in 3 years from now we're talking about it's a league that it's run by City and Newcastle.
I mean, I don't like either scenario.
I mean, also like I think the original argument of like we got to root for Liverpool. It's like I don't know, like are Liverpool that much different than them as far as like how they've kind of made equal distance between the rest of the league?
Yeah, I mean, it's always like circling around to how Liverpool fans like seem to forget that they have spent a hefty amount of money to actually build this squad. And yeah, they've had some big sales here and there, and they've lost some good players along the way, but they've spent a metric ton of money. Like Liverpool are historically one of the biggest spenders in the Premier League. So this isn't something that they just miraculously climbed there on their puritanical values, right? Like they got there on money just the same as most people do. It's just a question of where that money came from. And Fenway Sports Group isn't without their own complaints as well.
Sure, but the results were there.
It's true. Results matter.
Turns out in sports, results kind of a big deal.
Weird.
We did jump around to the rest of the league. Let's hit a few things. Kind of focusing more just on like these past weekend results. But I do want to start with a team where we can talk about a few results in a row, and that's your boys, Spurs, on a bit of a roll.
Yeah,
playing some good soccer.
Yeah, they've only, I think, lost twice in their last 8 matches, 3 on the bounce at the moment. Back into the top 4 with a 3-point gap over Arsenal, though Arsenal do have a match in hand. And results have really gone our way outside of Spurs playing well lately, right? Like Arsenal have dropped, I think 3 of their last 4. That's certainly outside the form that you would want to have at the end of the season as you're trying to like wrap up a Champions League place of your own. And, West Ham have been dropping some points. United have been dropping some points.
Sure,
literally, like everything that Spurs needed to have happen has been happening, which most likely means that they're going to find a way to muck it all up.
Just setting up for just a great final stretch failure.
Yeah, that seems like a very Spursy thing to do, doesn't it?
I love the fact that your fan base is already conditioned for these kind of things. Like you guys have already. You're already a couple steps down the road already. Going like, oh, this is how this goes bad.
Yeah, that's where we are. We have to build like a natural defense system of thick skin up over top of ourselves in order to survive this scenario over and over again. And I'm definitely preparing myself for the worst case scenario.
Well, have fun with that. I mean, otherwise, I think you guys are doing great. Also, it feels like the whole vibe around Conte has changed a lot too. Like everybody seems to be in the fan base seems to be pretty well in on the guy.
Yep.
Now it's not like I feel like for a while there it was like, well, I don't even know if he wants to be here. If he doesn't want to be here, he can just go. We don't need this. And now it's like, oh crap. Man, I hope someone doesn't try to come and pip our guy here in the summer.
Yeah, and I think that's so pivotal for Spurs to grab that 4th place spot. It's there for the taking at this point. If they can maintain that place, that will go miles to holding on not just Conte, but Harry Kane, who will undoubtedly see refreshed moves for his signature as well.
Sure. By the way, I saw that Harry Kane somehow, you guys played on Saturday, right?
Yes.
And yet he somehow made it to the Masters for Sunday.
It's amazing to be rich.
Gosh, like you just a flight to wherever in the world at any moment you want it.
That plane probably landed on a runway at Augusta National.
Yeah, it probably was at the airport, like that's like down the street there in Augusta.
He just tripped out of the plane and landed on a green.
Yep.
Harry Kane is one to be out and enjoying the biggest sporting events in the world. We've seen him at the Super Bowl. Yeah. We've seen him at this now. This is not unusual.
He's a big American sports fan.
Oh, yeah.
There seems to be a lot of those now. I know like half of Chelsea's team was like literally the second the international break hit and like those guys didn't have to be anywhere. Like 24 hours later, like half of those dudes were like courtside at a Nets game or something like that.
Yeah, exactly. Like there's lots of stuff for them to get into. And when you're rich and powerful, you can just hop across the ocean in no time flat.
Well, yeah, when you can just snap your fingers and there's a there's a private jet to America for you.
Oh yeah, I mean they probably sleep on the plane. It's easy enough for them to do that.
Quick little red eye, and boom, you're there.
Yeah, why not?
A little booger sugar, get you going through the rest of the day.
Yeah, it's the best way to do it, right?
You mentioned other results going your way. We got to talk about the fact that just when it looked like everything was going wrong and the world was collapsing on Everton, they get a 1-0 win over United on the weekend.
Huge result for them. Just
absolutely massive.
I mean, they needed it pretty much worse than anything ever, aside from maybe Manchester United actually needing a win as well.
Yeah, but Manchester United just needed a win for their own just mental health. This was literally like the existence of Everton as a Premier League club, like teetering on the balance here.
Yeah, I mean they've really been in the thick of it. We've been talking about this for weeks now, whether they were actually in the relegation scrap, and they're in it now. Like there's no doubt.
Firmly in it. Yeah.
But the 1-0 win over Manchester United this weekend was huge because it gives them separation from the chasing pack. Although a couple of these teams have matches in hand against them, but they're even with that match in hand, they're sitting with a bit of a gap. And
yeah,
I don't want Everton to go down. I'm not in the interested in that outcome. So no, I'm definitely secretly pulling for them.
So obviously that came at the hands of United dropping points. And then the other result was Arsenal losing twice this week?
Yeah.
That's not great.
It's not good.
That's not what you're looking to do.
No.
Yeah, I don't know. It does seem like Arsenal is having their like a little late season falter here. And it's wild that we talk about with Conte. Now everything is, this is our guy. Hopefully no one comes and takes our guy this summer. Immediately, it has been a return to Arteta's a fraud.
I mean,
like that switch got flipped for so many fans, instantly.
The confidence in that fan base is paper thin.
Yeah, apparently. So Arteta is back to being not the man for the job, according to a lot of the Arsenal supporters. I do wonder, realistically, in that boardroom, if they do continue to falter and they ultimately finish again, in freaking Conference League spots or some garbage like that. Where does that leave Arteta? How behind him is the board?
I mean, I can't say for sure, but you get the opinion that maybe, especially as we watch Patrick Vieira, continue to do fairly well at Crystal Palace.
Yeah.
Arsenal are a club that feel like they need that history a little bit, right? Like they need that culture for people who know what it's like to be Arsenal, because the one time they dipped their toes out with Unai Emery, it just didn't go well for them. So now what we're waiting to see is do they have a successor that has that Arsenal DNA ready and waiting? And I don't know. I could see them trying to tempt Vieira away and maybe moving a different direction. But I mean, it would be a big stylistic different change for them. They've gotten very much into Arteta has set the mold, and we're gonna buy pieces to fit that. The problem is I don't think anyone knows what that mold is that Arteta's buying around most of the time.
Right. Yeah. What is that?
Who knows?
What is the plan there?
Yeah.
And then Chelsea, fresh off of getting run off the field by Brentford, beat the brakes off of Southampton.
Yeah.
Beat them 6-0. Could have been a lot more.
It was a bloodbath. I mean, it was difficult to watch.
It was, yeah. We get these a few times a season where the better club, the bigger club, just absolutely has their way with one of these small clubs.
Yeah.
And just keeps the pedal on the floor the whole time.
Didn't Southampton get pantsed earlier in the season too by someone? Like,
I think so. Yeah.
yeah, I think it was Liverpool or someone along those. I think it was Leicester.
Yeah.
But yeah, definitely the whipping child this year. But yeah, I don't think that's necessarily an indication of either team's seasons, right? Like, yeah, they thrashed them, but if Chelsea could get that type of production every week, they'd probably be sitting in a different position at the moment.
Yeah.
So,
Certainly.
I bounce from the Champions League now as well. How are you feeling
Yes.
about that?
I didn't think we had a chance going into today, and the fact that we gave ourselves a chance and fought through it, and thought we had it there for a minute, and then Luka Modric just goes magic mode on it, and
Easily one of the best assists I've ever seen. I like have no problem at all quantifying that way. That was his off foot,
yeah,
outside of the foot,
outside of the foot, yeah, and then literally just just drops it right where it needs to be.
As a defender, that's like one of the most difficult balls to defend as it's launched over your back, over your far shoulder. It's just tough to turn and then lose sight of the ball and then re-find it. And I mean, it was hands down one of the most perfect weighted passes, clever. I don't even know how he really thought or saw the idea, but truly brilliant. And sometimes that's what it takes to knock the holders out of the tournament.
Came out of nowhere too. Like at that point, it looked like Chelsea had taken completely control. They just took the lead, and just out of nowhere, Modric just gets the ball and just drops that thing in there.
I mean, to be fair, you didn't think you were winning that trophy last year either. So
no, I didn't. I mean, literally all the way up until like the actual final itself, I still didn't believe.
Yeah.
It's kind of a weird one, but there we were. So Madrid moves on. Bayern Munich does not move on. Villarreal, he mentioned him a bit ago. Unai Emery. Good evening indeed, as they get past one of the giants of European football in the Champions League knockout.
Yeah, I mean, if there's ever an advertisement for the European Super League should not be a thing, this was it. And Villarreal seemed to be that team on a fairly regular basis anymore. I think I tweeted out that they're kind of like the Gonzaga of European football. Like, once a minnow, but they're now getting to the point where you kind of expect them to do this type of stuff.
Yeah.
But huge result for them. Bayern will surely be disappointed, and I'm sure they'll buy all the top players from all the other teams in Germany moving forward. Although the hot rumor is right now that Robert Lewandowski is leaving after this season. What
kind of leash is Nagelsmann going to get?
I don't know.
They're a weird club to peg on that.
Yeah, because you'd expect that they'd want to, start building into his type of system a little bit, and they're definitely a club that's in transition right now, right? Like they've kind of had some of their mainstay stars start to age and leave. A guy like Muller, who's been around forever, is at the very tail end of his career.
Yeah.
You can say the same thing about their goalkeeping lines. Alaba left for Real Madrid. So the side is not what it was a few years ago. Still one of the top sides in Europe, but it's intriguing to see how they respond to getting knocked out again.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see how because I mean they are a club also that like sometimes they have like this big 3-year 4-year plan with their managers, and sometimes like they want to move on pretty quickly.
Yeah, they're not gun shy, that's for sure.
Let's go stateside to talk about it. The U.S. returning to the World Cup, qualification wrapping up a week or so ago.
Yeah.
Shockingly, dates have been a bit of a blur for me recently.
Yeah, I can understand why that would be.
But they're through. It wasn't pretty. It wasn't at all times overly convincing, but in a in the CONCACAF qualifying, that is such a rough, odd road. They got through it. They did what they had to do.
Yeah, one of the things that drives me nuts about, now obviously there were results that could have been better. They should have, cleaned up and probably wrapped this thing up a while ago. But
sure,
as much as everyone always talks about this, right? Like, oh, the U.S., they didn't do very well. They barely qualified, whatever.
Backed in was the phrase for the people were throwing around.
Yeah, but they're only 3 points behind Canada. So it's not like Canada ran away with the thing.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like they finished close. And I think that's a testament to CONCACAF qualifying is insanely difficult.
Yeah. I mean, a road match against like a last place team like Honduras can be an absolute, battle. You're fighting kind of the elements. You're fighting just the conditions, the hospitality or lack thereof. It's a really tough, tricky thing to navigate qualifying in CONCACAF that I feel like there's still so many that just don't want to appreciate it. Like they've been told about it. They can see it with their own eyes when they watch the match, but they choose not to appreciate the level of difficulty.
Yeah.
Because they can't name anybody on that, El Salvador team. So, we should go on the road and beat them, 6-0.
Well, that's it. So I'm going to kind of breach this over into a topic that is kind of tangential to it, is how prepared do you feel like this team is heading into the World Cup?
I think they're relatively prepared. I think the tough road of qualifying in CONCACAF kind of helps build that. It is always weird right after qualifying because there is such a layoff, and things can change between now and then. Unfortunately, we've already seen some bad changes. We have, I think, multiple guys now injured.
Yeah.
I saw Yunus
McKinney.
Yeah, and I think I saw Yunus Musa had to leave a match either yesterday or today.
Oh, wonderful.
So you have some injuries piling up that's going to put guys in kind of a weird place of being hopefully back and fit pretty close to the time that World Cup stuff needs to start kind of getting into shape as far as that roster and who's getting selected. Not that I think, obviously if a guy's healthy enough, like Reyna, like he's gonna have a seat on the bus, Yeah,
they'll probably just hold one for him anyway.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see with all of that. You're dealing with a very different World Cup where you're not gonna have like this, late spring where you got all the guys in camp for several weeks and you're going and doing all these friendlies to kind of get yourself conditioned and ready, and instead it's literally going to be like a pretty short little window of guys getting into camp, and then within like a week, like they're playing World Cup matches.
Yeah, I mean, this is going to be a difficult one, and guys are going to be mid-season, coming off this already compressed weird season where injuries mounted up in ways they hadn't really done so before. And now what we could potentially see is guys coming into the World Cup more injured than they typically would be because, they're mid-campaign. And I think two clubs will be far more concerned about the World Cup and what happens to their players than what they typically used to be. And will that have an impact on team selections? I'd like to think it wouldn't, but it could. It could potentially do so. So, I don't know.
I don't know. I also think in the same way that a lot can change between now and then, and that the build up is going to be different this time around. I think that the nice thing about that is you can go, okay, So you know, to you people that say they quote unquote backed into the World Cup, that whole thing is going to be pretty much an afterthought by the time it's actually go time. To not only us, but to them.
Well, and so many teams back into the World Cup. Like,
Yeah.
think how many European sides that are powers are having to go through extra rounds. Like, Italy didn't even qualify. Like, people forget this stuff. Like,
Right.
Like, this is the only team of this size that's ever had an off campaign or, wasn't able to put all the pieces together.
Yeah. We kind of mentioned it. The clubs that they will be playing in the World Cup.
Yeah.
England and Iran are the known ones. There's also the kind of wild card spot of the winner of the match that will be is it Scotland versus Ukraine? Who's playing Ukraine first?
I think so.
And then
it's
the
confusing.
winner, and then it's Wales is like awaiting that winner.
Yes, I believe that is the case.
So one of those three countries will be the fourth member of that group.
Supposedly if Wales gets the nod, it becomes the group of death, at least by average ranking.
Okay, sure.
I always find that it's always a bit of a misnomer anyway.
Yeah, I don't know. It's a weird group though, right? Because you have England, a club that obviously is in a much different position that they were in 2010 when the U.S. last played them in a World Cup.
Mm-hmm.
But historically, a team that the U.S. actually has played well against in the World Cups. Iran, the opposite story is true.
Yeah, the last time we were drawn against them, we finished dead last in the tournament and we lost to them. So that was also unequivocally, aside from the one that we just didn't qualify for, probably the worst World Cup the U.S. has ever had.
Yeah.
So, but I'm happy about it. I'm glad they're back. I'm going to be a hypocrite and watch the tournament, even though I've said that I would, try not to contribute here. But I'm going to talk crap about this tournament all the way along through. Better believe that, people are going to realize that in order to have this tournament here, a lot of bad things happened.
Well, yeah, a lot of bad things have happened.
And are happening.
Yeah.
So.
But otherwise, yeah, I mean, I don't know. It's hard to kind of predict where without knowing our fourth member of the group, like how I feel like we'll fare. But like, I don't know. Ultimately, I feel fairly optimistic.
I do too.
As far as us getting through the group.
Yeah, I mean, even England, like as you said, like they tend to really struggle with us when it gets to the World Cup. So
yeah,
maybe that good mojo will keep flowing again, at least in the Middle East.
Yeah, we'll see. We'll see how that goes. They'll be playing U.S. versus England on Black Friday, I believe, is the opener.
Excited about that.
So that'll be fun.
Just transition right from the pub to your Black Friday shopping at the mall.
Yeah.
Right.
Go get that iPad on sale or whatever.
I need my discount TV the day before Black Friday, right?
Yes. I need that off-brand TV for $89. The 50-inch TV for $89 from a brand I can't pronounce.
Yeah.
I need that.
Do you think this game has the potential to be the most watched American soccer match of all time? Black Friday, no other major sporting events happening that day, no football.
Oh, I think so.
I think
it has to be. Yeah, it's prime.
I think we've got the recipe for it, right? It's the World Cup.
And what time are these matches going to be airing?
So the U.S. got really favorable match times. We have a 10 a.m. kickoff and then 6 p.m. or something like that. So, the times are basically this World Cup was really set up to try to maximize TV viewership numbers.
Sure.
So, we got some very palatable times when we were potentially staring at some, kickoffs that were going to be at, 6 o'clock in the morning.
Yeah. Yeah. Luckily, we will be avoiding that. Winners and wankers.
I think that's the part of the show we're at. Give me your depressing stuff first.
I don't know. I feel like my wanker is actually the more hysterical one.
Okay.
And that's the Michigan Stars.
Oh man, I debated about this one, so I'm gonna let you get it because I've got a good one too.
For like I mean, I understand that not everybody that listens to our podcast lives on Twitter and social media and gets to see all the, quick, ridiculous news cycle items that happen. One of them being after the most recent round of Open Cup matches, which one of them pitted the Michigan Stars and Detroit City FC. Detroit City won 3-0, I believe, was final score. Our buddy Fletcher, who has co-hosted on this podcast, was literally there pitch side for this match, reporting. If you talk to him, he will tell you that it was a fairly one-sided affair.
Yeah.
But that was not apparently how it was perceived by the ownership family of the Michigan Stars, who released a statement that started with addressing it to all the soccer fans around the world.
Yes, because, around the world, people were watching a American second division side play against an American division side.
There was some guy in Berlin that was like not able to go to sleep that night.
Just
because he was like, man, this does not sit well with me.
So that's how they started it. That's how they started the letter.
The letter proceeded to go on and refer to the match having been sabotaged by smoke, smell, and darkness.
Quote of the year in American soccer.
Amazing. Now, what they're referring to is, if you know anything about Detroit City, you know that much like a lot of very well organized supporter bases, they fire off smoke when their team scores, much like you'll see FC Cincinnati supporters and supporters of many other clubs do. Smoke pours out onto the field. Apparently, Michigan Stars, having only played Detroit City across their lifetime, probably a dozen or so times, if not more. Just apparently we're just up in arms that this happened. Yeah. Now, they're claiming that sabotaged the match. If you actually look at the highlights of the match and see the 3 goals that happen, only one of the goals happened while there was smoke on the field. And as our buddy Fletcher was pointing out to people online, the smoke was not, even on that second goal, the smoke was not an issue at field level. The smoke rises and kind of hangs above in the air.
Yeah.
Also, if the smoke were to impede the vision of their players, would it not impede the vision of the other players?
It would, yes. And in fact, there are rules about this, as it turns out. And the referee gets to make the call on this. And the referee seemed to think it was fine. And, Fletcher's reporting would back that up, is that, while it appeared bad, it really wasn't so bad at field level.
Yeah. So they claim that the match was sabotaged, again, to smoke, smell, and darkness. And that they were appealing to the match official during the match to halt the match. It's frustratingly petty and ridiculous just on the surface. But this is an ownership group of a club that is not exactly hitting home runs as far as their own operations are concerned.
Yeah.
I saw a lot of people from lower league soccer like throwing out their stories of the Michigan Stars, quote unquote, sabotaging their match. And I even threw out one of when the Cincinnati Saints went and played a match there. Obviously, much like in any case, the home team is in charge of the match balls.
Mm-hmm.
And throughout the entire course of the match, balls kept having to be removed from the play because they kept trying to play in flat balls, like uninflated, like not fully inflated soccer balls kept going into the field of play and being used by the home team and being supplied by their ball kids.
Mm.
And people have other stories, but it reeked of like, you've got to be kidding me. And also like, dude, you have literally no room to talk about like a match being manipulated by choices by one of the sides.
Well, I mean,
like,
at a minimum, I can understand why they thought, that the smell was overwhelming. Because they have no fans, they probably like don't know what the smell of the smoke actually is.
Oh yeah, I'm sure that they weren't used to. I don't think they have a big organized supporter base doing likewise. So
yeah.
Your wanker.
My wanker this week, I'm going to Cristiano Ronaldo, who had a bit of a tantrum in the aftermath of the loss at Goodison Park to Everton. On his way down the tunnels, he limped out from a perceived injury he suffered at the tail end of the match. There's a young fan who was hanging over the edge of the stands, filming, probably asking questions or talking some smack. And Ronaldo got really angry and just smacked kid's hand and the phone right out of his hand, and it smashed. Just absolutely smashed it.
Jeez.
And while that's bad enough on its own, and probably enough to get you into the Wanker Award category, all things considered, he made it worse by his apology being kind of like a half apology. And to make up for it, he didn't offer to buy the phone. He offered him tickets to come to Old Trafford.
It's Everton fan.
Yes.
Probably wants to go to an Everton match.
You'd think.
Yeah. Didn't he also, like, or him or the club, like, initially, like, in the immediate aftermath, threw out some bogus statement claiming that, like, it wasn't intentional?
Yes, I think.
And then he somehow inadvertently had knocked the phone out, and then the video came out, and you're like, that's not gonna wash.
If you watch any video, you can tell that he angry slammed that phone out of that kid's hand, which we've all been in that position before. We want to smack someone's phone out of their hand, but you're just not allowed to do it, Chris.
My winner this week is the rumored return of a thing that I felt like had jumped the shark, but it's been so long that now it almost sounds good again. The return of international summer friendlies.
Oh man.
It was reported by a couple outlets in Charlotte that Chelsea will actually play a match against Charlotte FC in Charlotte this summer.
Yeah, I remember seeing that, and it made me think, man, aren't we past these cash grabs yet? Like, have people not figured out what this game is?
Well, I feel like the cash grabs have gone away for the most part for the past several years. Obviously, COVID playing into a lot of it most recently, but I think even before that, those had really started to dwindle.
Yeah. I think it's partly because we were, seeing them drop in popularity.
Yeah, I think they kind of been found out a little too much. I mean, I think fans were getting a little too wise to the fact that, like, this ticket's going to be a bit overpriced.
Yeah.
I'm not going to see my guy play, my star play for more than like 10 minutes at best.
Right.
Like,
no,
is this actually worth it?
Yeah. I mean, it would take me some convincing to go out of town to go watch Spurs play somewhere on a summer tour anyway.
But like, let's say Spurs come to Columbus. You going to go?
Oh yeah. I'll drive up there for that.
Chicago. You going to go?
Probably. That's close enough.
Okay.
Nashville. Yeah.
Sure. Okay.
Maybe. Yeah. I don't even know then. Spurs were in Nashville and I didn't drive there for that. So.
Okay. I was going to say, see, like the 5 or 6 hour window is kind of your limit, you'd say?
Yeah. That's definitely about the limit where I'd be willing to drive for a match. But even then, like, it depends on the price. Like, if I have to pay $100 to watch like Spurs third team play, like, no thanks. It's
right. Exactly.
You could be at TQL and I'm not going for that.
Yeah, and I think that was kind of the problem, is they became a little too predictably not what you were paying for.
Oh yeah, like that. They held what was it, Manchester United, Real Madrid at the Big House up in Michigan a couple of years back. Sold like 100,000 tickets, but prices for the tickets like started at $100. Like it was just insane. Just
no,
insane.
I think I knew a guy that actually was literally sitting in the last row, and he paid like around like 90 or something, I think, per ticket.
Stupid, just really stupid. So, but I'm glad they're back. Like, hey, why not?
Yeah, I'm glad they're back. I if the opportunity arises where I'm able to go to one, like I'll go to it. I'll enjoy it, but like, yeah, I definitely realize that most fans have been bit by that before, where they think like they're gonna go and have one experience, and it's much not that.
Who are these people I don't know playing for the team I love? So, yeah, well, they're back, and enjoy them.
Yay! Your winner.
My winner this week. This one was a little bit off the beaten path, but I have to go with 1986 Ballon d'Or winner Igor Belanov. Made his name playing for Dynamo Kyiv.
Yeah, sure.
Actually represented the USSR in a World Cup, as well as the European Championships. But the reason why I'm calling him out now, not because he did some great thing in the world of football, but because he's actually given up his role in coaching in the world of professional football. And dude is fighting on the front lines right now in the Ukrainian war, which you just don't see players like giving it all up and doing it, especially ones who've been at that prestigious of a level. So just a huge, gesture from a guy who probably could have made it out and gone somewhere else.
Sure.
And chose not to do so.
Wow. Yeah, no, that's incredible. Who else did that? It was the manager of that Sheriff club.
Oh, yeah.
He did the same thing.
Oh, awesome.
Which is wild, because that Sheriff club is kind of like owned by like an oligarch, or it had shady Russian backing.
Yeah, he might find himself falling ill here soon.
Yeah. Much like the sort of current owner of Chelsea.
Yeah. Got himself a little too deep into the negotiations, did he?
Yeah, that'll happen.
Yeah. Well, that brings us to the end of this week's show. Thanks for listening in and putting up with our extended absence. But if you want to get a hold of Jeremy, he's still alive. You can find him at Jeremy Lance on Twitter. I'm at Wrong Side of Pond.
There.
And we will talk to you soon.
Got it.
See you, folks.
Later.